Hi guys, I'm Chef Brian Howard. I'm the chef owner of a newly formed hospitality group called Spaghetti on the Wall here in Las Vegas. Spaghetti on the Wall is the idea that you throw something at the wall, and if it sticks, it's finished, right? For us, we have a lot of ideas. So we have two restaurants here in Las Vegas. One called Sparrow and Wolf. It's a modern American restaurant. A lot of wood-fired cooking, more inspired cuisine that we call it. We kind of cook the way we feel at the moment and based around our surroundings of ingredients throughout our neighborhood or things that we may have seen. And we have a new brand called Half Bird, which is a rotisserie roasted bird concept. Early on in my career, I spent some time in a brasserie where I cooked roasted chickens every day for like 5 years, and I have a simple love relationship for it. And so now we're getting into the fast casual market with that. I've been in Las Vegas for about 22 years now, originally from Michigan, like Ralph. So yeah, we can kick it off.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you mind if we just jump right into some questions?
Sure, would love
All
that.
right. So you've been called the most ambitious chef in Las Vegas. Can you talk a little bit about how your hard work paid off into your success?
Sure. I think for me, and in a little bit, some of you may have, obviously you're all students. I was in and out of school growing up early on, but I never completed culinary school. I went and kind of got more hands-on activity. And I learned that for me at the time, coming into the kitchens that I was working in were very cutthroat. You had to kind of, you know, put your foot down to make a stamp or compete with the best around you. And living in Las Vegas, there was tons of competitive nature in the restaurants that I worked in at the time. So, yeah, I think I made a decision for me that I wanted to be better than the guy next to me. So I, learned, and I just put my head down and absorbed as much as I could throughout my times in the kitchens, being a sponge. It was never really about my ideas or anything early on. I really wanted to take in as much knowledge as I could. And I just did that for years, and I eventually found my voice in the kitchen, and I think and we can talk about this a little later, but I think it's a pivotal moment in any cook's career when they become confident enough to find their voice to say, hey, this is correct, or this is how we do things here, or this is not right. When you find that, things start to click a little bit. It's like taking the training wheels off the bike in a sense. At that moment, yeah, I mean, for me, it was really just that. I told myself early on, I come from kind of very humble beginnings, ones that I would rather put in the past. So I always told myself that I'm going to go as far as I can. I'm never going to look back. And when I was in my early 20s, I said, by the time I'm 32, I'm going to open my own restaurant. Well, by the time I was 32, I was taking the first steps to take the progress to open my own restaurant. So I was close on. I was about 35, 30, no, actually, yeah, about 35 is when I opened my first restaurant. So yeah, I mean, it's perseverance, it's grinding, but it's like any career. I think that if you work hard, and it's a new generation, it's an interesting because most people want to work less, get paid more. And the hospitality industry is changing a lot because it was such a demanding. It is a very demanding career. But I think as we go on, I'll explain some things that I think will interest you guys too. That we, as leaders of the culinary industry, are trying to adapt and make it more fitting for everybody's needs nowadays. So.
That's some solid advice, and you have an interesting upbringing as far as in the culinary arts, and where I'm getting flooded with questions from kids all around the world. So we'll just keep it rolling. We got a question from Gabrielle, and Gabrielle is in Italy. So
Hi, Gabrielle.
You should be able to unmute to ask.
Hi, Chef Brian. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
As a chef on a big city like Las Vegas, how do you feel the competition with the other restaurants?
If I'm understanding, how do I, in a city like Las Vegas, where there's a lot of competition, there is a ton of competition out here. However, Las Vegas it feels like a big city, but it's really not. It's probably one of the smallest cities, I think, because The culinary group here is a very, it's a lot of camaraderie. We all wanting, there's enough to go around. We're not like New York where we're all fighting for space and the rents are so high, we have to push each other out. And it's not a big city like this where there's still a lot of room for growth in the city. We're a young town. So those that are here and established themselves so far, we all want each other to win, right? There's enough food on the table for everybody to eat so far. And, I think our success is within that as a community by helping each other. There is a little bit of competitive nature more so now than there used to be, in terms of from an ownership side, but in terms of like just the competition when it comes to the talent pool of cooks, I would say it's probably one of the biggest talent pools there is that I know of, at least in the United States, in terms of training, because we're built on the hospitality industry. So our hotels have, they're committed to excellence. They're committed to Forbes awards. They're committed to mobile and, all of these high-end travel awards to get their guests to want to stay in their hotels. So there's immense training that goes along to their staff. And we're fortunate enough to be able to, whether those staff stay in those hotels, but to be able to kind of draft from those pools to bring them on board, because I don't think there's any other city like that.
We have a question from right here in Nevada. This is from Mr. Terrell's class, and you guys should be able to unmute if you could just ask one of your questions, sir.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm just like Ralph. I'm flooded with them. In Vegas, we definitely get the service industry, but I'll just ask two parts. The biggest question, I got it from like 10 people. What's your favorite dish to make? And then from a career standpoint, since it's career week, we noticed that you said you didn't necessarily have to take formal culinary school to get into the job that you want, but one kiddo said his dream job is to be a chef. So what should he expect to get into that career?
Sure. First answer to your question, and it's probably one of the most asked questions, I think, what do I like to eat most, or what I like to make? It's a good one. I have no idea. I don't think there's anything that I really can pinpoint that is my favorite thing to cook. I use this a lot. It may sound silly, but they're like your children. You kind of got to love them all. If you're passionate about the job that you're doing. I really love cooking with seafood. I love what the ocean provides us. I love wild ingredients. I love making fresh pasta. There's some things that are, I love anything that's kind of simple yet technical. And as I get older, my food becomes, I'm not quite as ambitious as I used to be. My food is a little bit more mature and simple, but I feel like there's a level of putting three things on a plate that have to make sense, where if one thing is wrong, the whole dish is ruined, versus having a flavor bomb on the plate that can overwhelm your palate. And if something's wrong, you might not notice. So yeah, I mean, those are some of my things. When I cook at home, it's relatively simple. It's, my wife's Cantonese, so I do a lot of simple, like, what my interpretation of what her family would cook, or just some simple roasted fish and things like that at the house. I love to cook over a grill and wood fire anytime that I can. And eating with my hands. This is another big thing. Anytime I have the opportunity to eat with my hands, I think it's important, because there's something about culture and history and eating and having an emotional connection to your food, and those that have provided that from a long time standpoint. Second question. Yes. If I did it all over again, I probably would have stuck school out, because there was some fundamental things that I missed upon, that I had to learn or fake along the way to, one of the things we teach our students in our kitchen now is the language of the job, right? When you're a chef de partie or a young cook, you don't speak the language of a sous chef, right? You may not understand what it means to, forecast or food cost, or the language of the chef when he talks about a P&L meeting, or, things like this. I sat in probably 10 P&L meetings before I even knew what P&L meant. So, my schooling experience was interesting. However, it the little schooling experience I did have, it showed me some basic fundamentals that were helped me go into the kitchen. I knew how to use a knife, right? I hadn't been shown up how to use a knife, but I missed out on so much more. However, I think it's up to the individual of how much you want and what you want out of life. And then this is in any career, I think. If you're passionate about doing something, you're going to go after it. You're going to put every ounce of blood, sweat, and tears you have into it. Because at the end of the day, there's so many of us in the world, and there's so little of us that actually can get noticed. And it depends what you want. You know, my goals over time have changed so much, right? They continuously change. The wants and needs out of my career. I thought I would spend my career standing behind the stove every day for the rest of my life, cooking like my mentors did. Now I'm 40 years old. My career shifting. I love the idea of being more on the brand development side, the creativeness, the creating the menus and creating the concepts and building people up underneath me. I have less of a need or want to stand in the kitchen every day. However, it's probably the one thing that I miss the most is connecting and having the camaraderie with all my cooks, you know.
You seem like a people person, which is, it seems like it's perfect for that.
I trying to grow, you know.
So we got a question from Clara, and she's in France. She had a very specific question for you. Go ahead, Clara.
Hi.
Hi, Claire.
I would like to know if you like French food.
I love French food, and actually, most of my career was built on cooking French cuisine. I am deeply rooted in the foundation of cooking French food. So I start everything that I do kind of has foundation from France and technique from France, whether it's my sauce making or, you know, my butchery or basic things, you know, knife cuts and things like this, all kind of stem from that. And then where we go from there, when we create, especially at Sparrow and Wolf, we involve ingredients and techniques from all over the world. You know, you'll see food from Southeast Asia, Japan, Vietnam, Thailand, yet we may have some spices from India or, you know, the Middle East. So, you know, learning to kind of fuse those things together in a cohesive way was something that I was always fascinated with. Like I said earlier, food for me is it's a love relationship, right? I would suggest this: if you don't love cooking, don't be a chef, right? Don't waste your time. You have to love this, right? And you know, this is not something that you can have one foot in, one foot out. I think if you really want to do something, but yeah, no, I've always had a fascination with kind of melding cuisines together. But yes, I absolutely love French food, and my last meal will be just a simple steak frites and a foie gras terrine.
He's already thought it out. That's awesome. So we have Mev in Italy, and she had an awesome question.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Thank you. I would like to know, how has your patience and relationship with cooking changed over the years of your career?
Sure. My patience with cooking and cuisine, or so when you talk about patience, can you elaborate a little bit more in terms of, are you talking
I think
more?
she means like the stress of the job, like where sometimes you just, I mean, most jobs you just get it ebbs and flows, that stress. How do you
Sure.
deal with it professionally?
Okay, yeah, sure, absolutely. Meditation is probably my number one go-to 3 to 4 times a week. Always having an outlet. I'm the type of guy that most of my career up until a couple years ago was putting my head down and working. I didn't have any life outside of the kitchen. It was go to work 14 hours a day, go home, do it again, fuel myself on coffee. As I got older, I learned that it's not a healthy life balance. We all want more. I have a son now, so it's very important to me that I get as much time with him and my wife as possible. So, you know, I think having outlets, you know, and learning that the prep list is never going to go away, right? One of those things that is a hard thing for most chefs that I know is learning to either put down the knives or understanding when to stop. They think that, oh, I have so much to do. I have so much to do. It's never going to stop. It is never going to stop. So learning that I kind of set my day up like this. I pick the most 4 impactful things that I can do in the day, because my prep list is always going to be pages long, and it gives you a lot of anxiety. You open it up, you look at it like, man, I'm never going to get through all this. However, I think divide and conquer and just picked out what's most impactful. I've learned that helped relieve a lot of my own anxiety. It also allowed for me to have time to go do the things that I like in life, and that, I missed out that my other friends that were working on, they're like, you know, going to, martial arts and doing all these other things. And I was just like, I don't have time for that. I got to work. Well, work's not the most important thing in life, finding balances. But yeah, I would credit most of that to meditation. I would say is a really good way to cleanse the mind and keep you focused.
Good advice. And especially as these kids go off in the world and kind of go down different career paths. I mean, it's not easy. There's a lot of hurdles. Got to be able to persevere. One of the kids from Spain, Victor, you had a pretty cool question. Go ahead and ask.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
You said that you love cooking seafood. So what is your favorite type of fish?
My favorite type of fish. I think my favorite fish is going to be the turbo. I really love cooking turbo. I love halibut. I mean, I don't know. I love all of it. I think fish though, if I had to pinpoint one fish, it was the last fish I could ever eat, would be a turbo.
That's very specific. That's good. I wouldn't even know how to answer that. That's brilliant. One of the kids in Nevada in Miss Nudi's class at Pinecrest Horizon, they wanted to know, has being a chef always been your dream job?
Well, I think when I was about 6, I said I was going to be a marine biologist. My story goes like this. I never grew up around like fresh ingredients or lived in a family where dinner was like a thing on the table. I grew up where it was like most everything came out of a box or a can. I really didn't know that there were fresh ingredients until I started watching PBS. And I around the time I was probably 7 or 8, I spent a lot of time watching Martin Yan and Julia Child and Emerald, and those were the people that showed me that there was much more to cooking. I was fascinated by it. And I think I was fascinated by the artistry of it because I was really into drawing early on. I loved the way that they made food look on a plate. So I would take my, you guys will laugh, but my Chef Boyardee ravioli out of the can, and I would make it look nice on a plate, and I would take photos of it. And that was at about 7 or 8. So yeah, I would say that there was something in my blood from that time where there was a passion to do more with food. I never did anything else but food. So yeah, I would say, yeah, absolutely. I've always known.
We have another specific question. This comes from Miguel in Portugal. I'm guessing you can guess what this question is, but I'll let him ask it. Miguel, go ahead. You can ask.
So I have a question that is, have you ever tried Portuguese food?
Portuguese food? I have.
Yes.
We don't have a lot of, I didn't have a lot of outlets to Portuguese food around me growing up, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert in it, but I have had Portuguese food, yes.
Nice. We have, and a few kids have asked this. We'll just go with a couple more questions and we'll let you go. But a few kids have asked, what advice would you have for the kids who want to enter in the world of cooking?
Sure. Well, I would say in not just cooking, but in anything you do, like I said, just go for it. If you want to cook, find the best kitchen. You're only granted so much time on earth, right? Right. So like every day is a day to make impact, right? Every day you wake up, you have an opportunity to do something better than you did yesterday. I wouldn't waste time, right? I started off in fast food. I started off working at McDonald's and Taco Bell and eventually into the diners. And then I just kind of worked my way upwards. I would say find the best restaurant and the best chef around you and go work for him, and put in as much time being a sponge as you can. Remember that, I guess the biggest thing that I see is that most people only use so much of their capabilities, right? They get to a point where things either get tough, it's hard, and they quit, or they're afraid. Most people are afraid, right? Like I find, even even speaking to you all this morning, I had a little bit of, as confident as I am, I have a little bit of fear. I want to make sure that I have the right answers, but just showing up is the most important part. You'll get through that. But fear is paper thin, right? You remember, like, on the other side of fear is always the success, and most people have breakdowns before they have the breakthrough. So the moment it gets tough, just keep pushing on. I would say that that's my my advice in life and in cooking. If you want to set out to do something, just go for it.
Man, that is brilliant, brilliant advice. We have Lara, sorry, in Italy, and go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, yes. Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice
I
to meet
wanted to ask if you thought there were some opportunities for foreign chefs who want to raise restaurants in the United States or want to work there.
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, I think you, like I said, if you want something bad enough, you're going to find a way to do it. And I don't know how it is in terms of what it would take for you to open a restaurant in the United States. I'm sure there's some a little bit of hoops that you'll have to jump through. But I know that they do offer money. The United States offers money to foreigners to come in and open businesses here. I believe they even pay for X amount of your family members to get here to open up more businesses here. So yeah, I would say that there's definitely opportunity. And yeah, absolutely.
That is great advice, and definitely check that out. Go ahead and Google that, for those opportunities. And so the final question will come from Mr. Terrell's class here in Nevada, because Chef Howard is a Nevadan like me. So I'll let this Nevada class ask the final question. So go ahead, Mr. Terrell, you guys can unmute.
So I'm inundated still with questions, but I think the one that they voted on for one final question is cooking shows are everywhere. Have you been on a cooking show, or what is your feeling towards that versus the actual kitchen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the cooking shows and celebrity chefs made such an impact on what we do and drew a lot of attention to our industry, because remember, our industry beforehand, we essentially were peasants. We were a service to people. We still are. We're hospitalitarians. And, but yes, I have been on shows. I was competed on Chopped a very long time ago when I was really young. Competed on FY Channel's Late Night Chef Fight. I was a judge on Master Chef Junior with Gordon Ramsay. I've done a bunch of this stuff. And one of those things is I learned throughout my career of when you're trying to find what it is that you want to be. And even though I know I'm a chef, like I said, my role's changing, right? At some point I thought I wanted to be, and I had the opportunity to be this, probably a TV person or more of a profile chef. As I grow, it's less of what I want, because I really want to just, at the end of the day, cook delicious food, provide great hospitality to my guests. And if I have a busy restaurant, that's the win for me. I used to care a lot about all the awards, and the things that came along with it. And those are nice to get, but I've realized along the way, they don't make the impact that you think they do, right? Those are more ego-driven awards or whatever. The real wins are when your restaurant's full every day, and that people like what you do, and that you're making impact on the people around me. I'm the person that likes to see people grow around me. To watch the dishwasher become the prep cook, and the prep cook become the line cook, or the hostess become the office manager. All these things, like, this is why I do what I do.